In April of 2017, the United States dropped the biggest non-atomic bomb ever dropped in the remote mountains of Afghanistan to kill the ISIS terrorists that supposedly lived in the vast cave systems of the mountains of Afghanistan. But I question that. I believe they were after somebody else. In 2017, the United States dropped a 21,600-pound Moab bomb, nicknamed the mother of all bombs, in the remote mountains in Afghanistan. According to the government, the target was to kill ISIS terrorist army that lived in the vast cave systems in these mountains. But I find that questionable because it would be militarily foolish and unpractical for an army to live and dwell in a dark cave system. For one reason, an army in a cave system would be trapped. An opposing army could set up machine gun nests around the cave entrances and shoot the ISIS terrorists when they tried to leave the cave, or they could simply blow up the cave entrances, trapping the army in the tunnels. Also, their supply line would be easier to stop for an army that lived in a cave. Also, it is psychologically hard for humans to live underground for long periods of time, and human waste and hygiene would seem to be a big logistical problem for an army that is living underground. Another thing I find suspicious is this cave system is very remote, with very few people living in this area. So who would the ISIS terrorist army fight and terrorize? There would be nobody, so the terrorist army would just be an army of hermits. So I highly doubt the ISIS army lived in these caves. But then the question would be, as who were they trying to kill with the bomb? According to stories and local folklore, huge human giants lived in the cave systems. And it is reported that many local people that lived around this area stay away from the cave system because of the stories of giants attacking and killing and eating people in this area. But in 2002, a sensational story came out of this area in Afghanistan. The alleged story goes like this. An army patrol unit was sent out to search for another army patrol unit that went missing in this remote area. The army unit came to a large cave when a huge man ran out of the cave, attacking the soldiers. The giant speared one of the soldiers, killing him. The other soldiers opened up on the giant, shooting him many times, hitting him in the face, head, and torso, killing the giant. The giant was reported to have red hair and stood over 11 feet tall and weighed well over 1,000 pounds. The giant also had a terrible stink to him, and 6 fingers on his hand and 6 toes on his feet. The body of the giant was transported out of the area in a cargo net by a military helicopter. The soldiers who were in this incident were told to write their reports in a way that did not mention the giant. When the government was asked if this incident occurred, the U.S. government stated that it never happened. But I believe that means practically nothing, because I believe the government would deny this type of incident if it ever happened or not. But what I do think is suspicious is that the cave system that the giants were reported to live in, and where the alleged incident happened, that 15 years later, the military is bombing the very cave system. Here's what I found interesting. The Bible mentions a giant that had 6 fingers and 6 toes, like the giant killed by U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan. In 2 Samuel 21:20, it states, in still another battle which took place at Gath, there was a huge man with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 4 in all. He was a descendant from Rapha. When he taunted Israel, Jonathan, son of Shimei, David's brother, killed him. The Bible states that Goliath, the famous giant that David killed with his slingshot, was also a descendant of Rapha, which means that it is very likely Goliath also had 6 fingers and 6 toes, just like the giant allegedly killed in Afghanistan in 2002, which means it's a high probability that the giant killed by U.S. soldiers was the same type of giant that the ancient Israelites were fighting against before the birth of Christ. In conclusion of my video, I'd like to say is I do not believe the U.S. Army was bombing ISIS fighters in Afghanistan in the cave systems, for the reasons I talked about earlier in the video. I believe they were trying to kill the giants that live deep within the bowels of the earth, and the ISIS army was just a cover story, because giants are something that they do not want us to know about. Thanks for watching my video, and have a good day.